Welcome to a special episode of the A-Game. I'm Eric Fisher alongside AWN Stephen Biddix and WASU's Ben Cole and Jeff Marson. March Madness is right around the corner, and here at AppTV, we want to add a little bit more competition to the mix. And what better way to do that than a friendly bracket challenge? AppTV versus WASU. How this will work is we will go through each round of the competition, revealing to you our picks and telling you, the viewer, why we are right. Over the course of the tournament, we will be updating the point totals in each episode of the A-Game to see who earns bragging rights. To start things off, we are looking at the first round games out of the West. Let's take a look at the picks.
So yeah, looking at the 1 versus 16 in this region, got to go with Gonzaga here. Feels like a no-brainer.
Yeah, I agree. You said you got your little simulation there. 100% chance of Gonzaga winning. So,
Chet Holmgren, Drew Timme has some experience. Not a great year, but this Georgia State team's not a great team. So it should be pretty easy for Gonzaga.
Yeah, exactly. It's just obvious.
This 8-9 matchup's pretty interesting to me. Memphis and Boise State, two teams that kind of differ offensively and defensively. Who do you guys got?
I mean, looking at, we like Memphis. This is a big thing when I look at conference play. We talked about it. Mm-hmm. Memphis is in the better conference. I think that gets pretty important when you go into March, looking at, strength of schedule and stuff, and I think we really value that looking at Memphis.
And Memphis is massive on the boards, too. Jalen Duren, he's a double-double rebounding machine, and Amoni Bates could possibly come back and play, too, here in the postseason, which we haven't seen him in a while.
Right. It took a while for Memphis to really hit their stride this year, even with all the talent they've had. And, there was rumors early on, will Penny Hardaway be able to keep his job? And they've been able to turn it around here late, despite the loss in the American Conference Championship game in Houston. Yep,
I agree with Steven. I like Memphis. They rank top 5 in offensive rebounding. They're great on the boards. I like them in this one.
Yeah, I think we should go to where we have a disagreement, finally. Looking at the 4-13, we actually picked an upset, surprisingly. Yeah, looking at it, Arkansas has kind of struggled, I think, as the season's gone on a little bit towards the end in the SEC with certain things, but Vermont's not a bad team.
No, and Arkansas has been really bad offensively lately, and Vermont is hot. They have the third best two-point shooting percentage in the entire country, and they have a defensive team that could give this Arkansas team a bunch of problems if their offense struggles.
Yeah, I actually don't hate this pick for Vermont at all. No, if I had the courage, I would pick Vermont in this game. But J.D. Notae is an offensive powerhouse for Arkansas. He put up 30 points despite going just 2 for 8 from behind the arc in a win over Kentucky. He can really take over a game. But Vermont shoots 57% from the field. They could pull off an upset.
Yeah, like you said, Ben, I don't really hate it, but it's not a great matchup for Vermont. They got their 2-time American Youth Player of the Year, Ryan Davis, down low, but Jalen Williams is a great matchup for him athletically. So Vermont's kind of one of those low to the ground teams. They're not going to try and blow by you or jump over you, but they're a pretty good shooting team. I just like Arkansas, just based off of athleticism alone.
I feel like there's always usually a 13 that beats a 4 in it. I feel like it could be Vermont. I think makes a lot of sense looking at it, definitely. But going on, we take Alabama. I think Alabama's a good team. They're not bad.
I think Alabama's just a straight up better team than Rutgers or Notre Dame. We know Rutgers can make some noise in the postseason. We've seen it before, but the SEC was just so good in basketball this year, and Alabama being in that conference and beating some top dogs, I just think Alabama's going to have a better overall roster and team than either one of Rutgers or Notre Dame.
Yeah, this is a tough game for me because I like Rutgers matched up against Alabama, but, they have to get past Notre Dame first. But Alabama plays a really tough schedule, despite 13 losses throughout the season. They play a tough schedule. They have some really good games. It's a good pick to go with Alabama.
Yeah, I'm not really high on Alabama going into this tournament because, they've lost their last 3 games going into the tournament with one being at home to Texas A&M and then at LSU and in the SEC tournament to Vanderbilt, who is, one of the bottom feeders in the SEC. So I know Alabama, they've got a high ceiling, but, they've got a low floor too.
Yeah, that's fair. Looking at the next one, Texas Tech. I actually like Texas Tech a lot. I think they're a team that could go far and could make noise, and I feel like it's a pretty obvious choice against Montana State.
Yeah, especially against Montana State. Not a basketball school, if I say so myself. And when you have a guy named Adonis Arms on Texas Tech, I mean, you got to roll with him at least for the first couple rounds.
Yeah, I think it's a no-brainer here. I like Texas Tech. We'll get into it later, but I see this team going quite far.
I believe it's Montana State's first tournament appearance since 1998, so they'll be happy to be there, but they're going to get run out of the building, unfortunately.
All right, looking at a disagreement again, Michigan State, they're in the stronger conference in the Big Ten, and they've made some noise throughout the season.
So, yeah, Michigan State doesn't quite have that superstar that they typically have. They do have Gabe Brown, their only double-figure scorer, but I'm looking at it less as like the roster, but just as the coach. Tom Izzo is not going to let his team go down in the first round. And kind of whether his team's been good or not, he always ends up making some noise in the tournament every year. So I'm just going to go kind of just based off of a coaching battle here. I think Tom Izzo is just going to outclass Davidson.
See, I think that's a good point you make. I think that's the only point you can make for Michigan State in this matchup is just the coaching and tournament experience. But I like this Davidson team. They upset Alabama early in the season when Alabama had, high hopes. They can let it fly from three. They play good inside and out. They run a very effective staggered screen strategy that creates a lot of open shots around the floor. This team can get out and run. They have big guys that can, have great post moves. I like Davidson in this one.
Yeah, I think Michigan State is playing well going into this tournament, but Davidson is they're so solid all around. And you want to talk about coaching? Bob McKillop is a longtime coach there at Davidson. He knows his stuff. And the top scorer for Davidson, Foster Lawyer, is a Michigan State transfer. And you got a guy like Hyunjung Lee who can get, whatever basket he wants. The offense usually runs through him. And I just like this Davidson team a lot.
Yeah, also Michigan State, they've been heating up, though. And you like to always look at the team that's going hot in the tournament. And they're definitely one you can watch out for. And then, lastly, Duke. I feel like it's pretty obvious.
This one might some yellow tape around it from a murder scene after the game because this could be a 30, 40-point game pretty easily against Cal State Fullerton.
Yeah.
If it was baseball, it'd be a good game, two good programs, but not basketball.
Yeah, there's nothing more to say.
Yeah.
Not too much on that one.
Although
Coach,
it would be funny if.
Yeah,
That would-
funny,
I don't think
but
too many people would be complaining if that
Yeah.
upset did
Yeah,
happen.
that's fair.
Coach
that's
K
fair.
won't let it happen.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's fair. If it happens with, I would say, kind of the sour ending to Duke's end of the season, that would just really make UNC fans happy to say that.
It would.
And now, going to the next region, we will be going to the East region for the first round, and let's look at those picks now. So looking at the East region now, first matchup, once again, pretty obvious with the 1 seed.
Yep.
You got Baylor, reigning national champions. What do you guys have to say about that? Really quick?
At least Norfolk State's not in a play-in game like they were against us last year. They actually made it this time, but they're just going to get whooped again.
Yeah. And then I like North Carolina against Marquette. Armando Bacot, just a powerhouse. I think he's going to lead this team to at least one victory in the tournament.
Right, Marquette's kind of, limping into the Big East tournament, and North Carolina's playing relatively well. They didn't look great against Virginia Tech, but I like them to win this matchup.
Yeah, I think coming off the high two, beating Duke at the end of the season, that's just going to boost them around. When they play good basketball, they are one of the better teams, definitely in the nation.
North Carolina can beat anybody or lose to anybody, like the way they play with
Exactly.
Caleb Love, Armando Bacot. Manic's been red hot from three lately, so it's really just which one of these Tar Heel teams comes out to play in this tournament.
And looking at UCLA, actually going to St. Mary's first. St. Mary's, they pulled off the upset late, and I don't see them losing against a team in the play-in.
No, I like St. Mary's. They can put up a lot of points.
I'm not too high on them, but I like their matchups. I think Indiana, if they were able to pull off the victory, I guess this is recording on Tuesday, so if they win yesterday, they could give them trouble.
Yeah, I think St. Mary's is just a solid team. They're really the only team in Gonzaga's conference that has given them a hard time over the past about 4 or 5 years, beating them once this year and beating San Francisco both times they played, who's also in their conference. I think they're a solid team, and this won't be too close.
Yeah, going to UCLA, Akron. I thought Akron could maybe make noise, but UCLA, they make the good run last year, and they still have some returning players, and I like them.
Yeah, they're bringing back 2 of their starting guards from the Final Four last year. There's the more experienced team, better recruits. They're in LA. You're going to get better recruits in LA than Akron, Ohio. So I think UCLA in this one, too.
Yeah, pretty much a no-brainer here. But this Virginia Tech-Texas game, which is next, this is an interesting one. Virginia Tech, you mentioned teams who are getting hot in the March time. and that's Virginia Tech right now. I mean, blew through the ACC tournament, smashed Duke. I like them against Texas here.
Yeah, this is probably the most popular upset pick in everyone's bracket, but deservingly so because Virginia Tech is on fire. Their starting five can compete with just about any starting five in America. I think they can take down Texas, who has some good players, but they're kind of struggling offensively.
Yeah, I mean, Tech is red hot, and they are playing the best basketball they've played in a while. So, I mean, just rolling with that, I feel like you have to go them, but Texas is not a bad team, too.
No.
Yeah, Virginia Tech, they're the number 4 ranked three-point shooting team in the entire country. And I mean, it's every single sport for Texas. They just never show up in the big time, and I think this is going to continue horns down.
Oh, no.
Oh, man. Okay, well, going to Purdue and Yale. Purdue, honestly, I wasn't too sold on them, but I feel like you got to pick them over Yale here.
Yeah, Purdue's just better than an Ivy League team. Big Ten, Ivy League.
Exactly.
I agree. They have too much size. They'll dominate in the paint this game.
Yeah. And going to where we finally disagree, looking at Murray State versus San Francisco. San Francisco's a good team. They made some noise against like Gonzaga a little bit. Not a brutal loss like we see Gonzaga play against most teams, but they have a good defense and they got some good shooters as well.
No, it's true. I was going to mention the Gonzaga game. This is a really tough game to pick because, Murray State only lost 2 games all year. It's hard to pick against a team that wins that much, but the San Francisco team kept it close for an entire half against Gonzaga. They score at a high efficiency. It's going to be a close game.
Yeah, you can't really reward a team for playing a good 20 minutes and not a full 40. But taking a look at Murray State, like I said, undefeated in conference. You might think, well, maybe they played some bad teams too. They've got some quality wins over Memphis, and Chattanooga is also in the tournament. So I like Murray State a lot going into this matchup.
And if you're San Francisco, you got to look too. We just talked about St. Mary's. They lost by 2 and they lost by 5 when they played St. Mary's this year. And San Francisco is a big 3-and-D team. They can shoot the 3 and guard the 3 on the other end. And I just don't think Murray State's level of competition they've played this year is as good as San Francisco.
That is a fair point. There has been a lot of overrated talk around Murray State, but they still have the best 3-point shooter in that conference. And if they can light it up, they can definitely win a game here in March Madness.
Yeah, I'm still going with San Francisco, but that'll be one of the better matchups, I think, in the first round, especially in this region as well. And looking at the 2 versus 15, I mean, I don't think there's much to say about this one.
Not much to talk about here.
Kentucky's too talented.
Yeah,
Quick shout out to
exactly.
the Peacocks, St. Peter's.
Now wrapping up the East and moving on up to the South region. Let's see the picks for the South now. Looking at the first matchup, the 116, once again, we're not going to see another UMBC. I don't think it's going to happen.
No, not against Arizona.
Exactly, yeah.
Quick shout out, though, for Bryant. Peter Kiss, nation's leading scorer. He's a savage. He's also very fun to watch.
Well, going to the 8-9, some of the best matchups usually in the first round we see. I'm pretty big on Seton Hall. I'm big on the Big East. I think they're one of the better conferences in basketball each year, and they always just have a consistent level of play. And we saw it was Providence and Villanova a lot at the top for the Big East this year, but Seton Hall still made some noise, and they played well.
Yeah, Seton Hall's got a big physical defense. I think the Big East, as you mentioned, is a good conference. And if TCU can't hit their threes against that Seton Hall defense, I don't see them getting into the paint and scoring that way either.
No, it's true. You mentioned Seton Hall's size and defense. I agree with you. They only allow 66 points a game to opponents. They play a tough schedule. I like them in this one.
Yeah, to me, this is kind of a coin flip. TCU's kind of been pretty good down the stretch with wins over Kansas and Texas Tech and Texas down in the final few games of the year. But me and Ben decided, we'll just go with the Pirates here.
And looking at the 5 and 12 matchup, Houston, I mean, I'm not really big on Houston personally, but for some reason, I don't see them losing this matchup. I think they got a good, solid team, and the AAC's not a bad conference in basketball, and they showed it.
And it is impressive that they're at this point after losing Marcus Sacker and Tremont Mark earlier in the season to season-ending injuries. And this Houston coach has gotten them to this point. I think it's an easy game against UAB, but we'll see after that.
Yeah, I like Houston in this. They're 4th in the KenPom. They're a solid team. UAB, they put up a great performance. Could see an upset here, but it would take a bad Houston performance.
Yeah, I disagree about the part being a blowout because I know Houston's been pretty solid going down these final few games, but UAB has been unbelievable. Jordan Jelly Walker, one of my favorite players going into this tournament, dropped 40 in the conference semifinals and then 27 in the final. So I think UAB will be able to give them a good run for their money, especially with the good three-point shooting they have.
Yeah, and I know you said earlier about like playing the full 40 minutes, and Houston didn't pull off some major wins, but they still had some like pretty like I guess you could say good losses to Wisconsin and Alabama. And I think if they play well in those games, they should cruise by, but you never know. It's March, obviously. And now looking at Illinois, Chattanooga, we go the same way again with Illinois. You know, tying in the Big Ten for the first time, I think, in a long time, or first time ever, actually.
Yeah, Chattanooga could have been a spicy pick. We talked about that one a little bit, but yeah. Illinois is just the more sound team through and through.
Yeah, Chattanooga would have been a fun one if they had a better matchup, but I like Illinois in this.
I agree completely. They got a little lucky at the end of the year with that buzzer beater to
Exactly.
make the
Yeah.
tournament, but they're going to be a tough matchup for Illinois, but the Fighting Illini are just too strong up front with Kofi Coburn.
And now here we go with the actual disagreements finally. Colorado State versus Michigan. Michigan had some controversy. Did they even deserve to get in? You know, there are a lot of teams that people are saying deserve to get in over them. And I can see it, but I don't know. You get Juwan Howard, you know, he's coming back after the whole crazy thing that happened. And so I don't know. We liked Michigan in this one.
Yeah, now that Slapgate is pretty much over for Juwan Howard.
Exactly.
I mean, Michigan plays a bunch of Quadrant 1 games in college basketball. And Michigan, I think they just have a better roster. I mean, you saw where they were last year, and I just think that they're going to beat this team.
Yeah, I like Colorado State here. An interesting tidbit, they were one of the only teams, they had not received flight itinerary up until this morning. They did not know how they were going to get to their game. They were requesting that their tip be pushed back from 12:15. But as of like 2 hours ago, they are actually good to go. But yeah, I don't think Michigan should have even gotten into this tournament. Undeserving of an 11 seed, at least should have been in a play-in game. Colorado State has David Roddy, who is just an explosive scorer. I like Colorado State.
Yeah, the only problem I think with this game could be the size inside with Hunter Dickinson for Michigan. But like you said, David Roddy, a Mountain West Player of the Year this year, averaging over 19 points a game. I like Colorado State in this one.
But if Colorado State can shut down Hunter Dickinson's spin move on the baseline, if they can cut off that baseline, they can find a lot of success. That's his go-to move.
Yeah, and moving on to the Tennessee-Longwood match, we love Tennessee in this tournament. I love their guard-heavy play. They're a good team, and yeah, I don't even see this as a matchup.
Yeah, I like Tennessee a lot in this one.
And now going on to not a disagreement, but Ohio State, Loyola Chicago. We both go with the lower seed, or the, I guess, higher seed actually winning. And Loyola Chicago, they're back. You know, I think they can make some noise again.
I love that we're all on the same page about this Loyola pick. They're a fun team every year. You see Sister Jean out in the crowd. You have Drew Valentine, who's only 30 years old, youngest head coach in college basketball, just continually bringing this team to the tournament. And there's a fun team to pull for.
Oh, yeah, they got good shooters. You know, they got a pretty solid defense. They have tournament experience. They've proved themselves. I like them against a struggling Ohio State team.
Yeah, you mentioned a tournament pedigree, and Ohio State's lost 4 of their last 5 going into this tournament, so there's not a lot of excitement around them. You know, I was going to say, Loyola's got a lot of returning players from last year from the team that beat Illinois, like Lucas Williamson, Braden Norris, Ahir Ugwak, so it should be a fun matchup for them.
Yeah, and Ohio State, obviously, the disappointment last year. I mean, they're going to want to bounce back, but Loyola Chicago looks fun. And looking at the 2:15 matchup, Villanova, Delaware, I probably have a little bias. I am a Villanova fan, I'll say it now. But being a group thing, I love Colin Gillespie. I think he is one of the best point guards in the nation, and if Villanova loses, that would be a major shock. I just don't see it happening.
No, Villanova, easy.
Gillespie and Moore are just too good.
Exactly.
They're not going to lose in the first round.
Yeah, and wrapping up round 1, now let's move to the Midwest and take a look at our picks for that region. And looking at the first matchup, we got Kansas against a play-in group, and Kansas, I think, might be possibly like the most vulnerable out of the 1 seeds, them or Baylor, but I mean, just no way they lose it.
I like Kansas to easily go through this first round. They have Remy Martin. They have the Big 12 Player of the Year as well over on that Kansas roster, and they should fly right by this game.
Yep, Kansas, easy decision.
And looking at the 8 and 9, San Diego State versus Creighton. I actually like Creighton a lot. I thought they really showed how good they can be in the Big East tournament, and they really showed that off, and I think that makes them the clear pick in this one.
Yeah, I like Creighton as well in this one. I mean, as we've mentioned before, the Big East has a strong conference this year and just through and through a better team.
Creighton has been turning it up recently, but this will be an interesting game. I like Creighton, but San Diego State, one of the best defenses in the country. They can slow down Creighton. They could pull out a win. In
Yeah,
this one.
we agree with this pick. Like, it's an easy one. It is not at all.
No.
San Diego State's a very solid squad, but you said it. Creighton is playing very well going into the NCAA tournament. They beat Marquette by double digits, and they beat the brakes off of Providence in that Big East semifinal.
Yep.
Yeah.
And one last thing, what's interesting too about Creighton is this is the first time in Coach McDermott's 12-year coaching career where his defensive efficiency rating is better than their offensive efficiency rating.
Wow.
Yeah, that'll be a really interesting matchup to watch. I think the 8 or 9s this year look really good, but going to the 5 and 12, you have Iowa, Richmond. I feel like usually there's an upset here, but I don't think either of us see it coming with. Both have Iowa coming out on top.
Yeah, I don't see Keegan Murray and Iowa losing this game.
No,
Yeah,
yeah,
exactly.
Keegan Murray is explosive. Iowa, one of the best offenses. These 5-12 matchups are tempting sometimes, but not this one in particular.
I was just playing too well at this point in the season. I think Richmond could give him a scare, but we got Iowa in this one.
Yeah, and moving to Providence, South Dakota State. Disagreement here, Providence.
I love this.
They've struggled. They have struggled, and I know South Dakota State. I feel like they're like the team. Everyone's like, oh, they're the upset team this year, and there's a lot of talk around that. But Providence has struggled, but I still think they're going to get the win.
Yeah, and if you're Providence, you have players still developing at this late in the season, which you love to see them getting hot, like Jared Bynum coming into the tournament for Providence. And so you've kind of been able to tell we're Big East guys over here. We like a bunch of these Big East teams, and we're just going to keep it rolling with Providence. I do think it'll be a good game, though, because they have had, I think it was just over 50% of Providence's games have been within 8 points all season.
I really like this was a no-brainer.
Yeah.
South Dakota State for both of us. Like, I have too many issues with Providence. They have one of the highest luck ratings in the Ken Palm. They're inconsistent. They have bad losses. 18 to Virginia, 32 to Marquette, 27 to Creighton just a week ago. South Dakota State, second in the nation in scoring, 86.7 points per game, and they shoot over 50% from the field. The Jackrabbits could Jackrabbits could blow out Providence, in my opinion.
Yeah, Providence, they're not a team that you can get excited about. To me, going into this tournament, you mentioned it, South Dakota State. They know how to run 86 points a game. They're also shooting 45% from three as a team, which is pretty solid. So we like the Jackrabbits to run past Providence here.
That might have been the clearest disagreement we've had so far. But moving on to the 6 and 11, seeing LSU and Iowa State. Another disagreement here. I'm not sold on LSU at all. They're a young team, but they're really inexperienced. They don't have much carryover, and I don't know if they can actually pull out this win. And I think Iowa State's a solid team.
And my big thing with LSU is Will Wade's gone. They're going into this tournament without their leader, without their guy that's created all the strategies for all of their games throughout the whole entire year. And I just think they're going to look a little lost in this game because I feel like it's not a sport like football where you have so many other, whether it's position coaches, assistant coaches, and a coach is fired or let go, and you can kind of build around that. With basketball, it's so tactical, especially at this point in the tournament. I just don't like LSU without their head guy there.
See, I like LSU in this one, and the coach thing it's a good point to bring up, but that can be something that can spark a team or deflate it. I think in this situation going into March, I think it will spark this team. LSU has tournament experience. I like them against Iowa State.
Yeah, I hate this matchup as a whole. I don't like either team going into this game. Iowa State, they got off to the hot start, beating some pretty solid teams like Iowa, Memphis, but they went 7-11 in conference play, which is, not strong. And then, of course, they didn't really have a great showing in the Big 12 tournament. So we've got LSU moving on in this one.
Yeah, and looking at the 7 and 10, we actually agree on Miami on this one. Actually, going in quick, Wisconsin. We love Wisconsin. I know that. Wisconsin's a good team, but going on to USC, Miami. Miami's one of those teams, they could either, they destroyed UNC earlier, or they could just look horrible by getting crushed by Alabama, too. So I think you get what you get, but I think we could see them doing well in this one.
I like this Miami team, too. They're fast. They're not like a big physical team like you'd kind of expect. They start 4 guards down there in Cable Gardens in Florida at Miami, and I'm definitely really excited for this game. I think it'll be close. You have Mobley's younger brother still on USC, but I like Miami in this game.
I like Miami too because of what you mentioned, the guard play. They run a 5-out offense that opens up backdoor cuts for easy buckets. They can really open up a game, and they could exploit that USC interior defense.
Right. You said USC kind of relies on size defensively, so I think the guard play will give them trouble. USC lost 3 of their last 4. I'm going with the Hurricanes.
Yeah, and looking, you got the 215. I don't think there's much to be said about this. Auburn's a solid team. They've had some up and downs, but I think they're one of the better teams in the tournament.
And Jacksonville State shouldn't be in the tournament because they didn't win their conference.
Yeah,
Exactly, that's a good
literally.
point, too.
Controversy.
Yeah, now with things heating up, starting to see some disagreements now, let's reveal our round 2 picks from the West. And now, looking at it, we have the 1-9 matchup with Gonzaga both winning out. Is much to be said.
Memphis could give them some trouble, but Gonzaga's just too strong.
Yeah, they are too strong.
And now, here's where it gets interesting. We have UConn losing to Vermont, and you guys have Arkansas still going on and winning. I mean, I like the Vermont team. I mean,
I love Vermont. This
Yeah.
is what we're kind of hooking our Cinderella team to here is
Exactly.
Vermont. And I mean, UConn, kind of first time going against the Big East. Yes, they're in the Big East, but I don't know. I like this Vermont team. Don't think UConn's all that sound through and through, and I love this Vermont team.
exactly.
I like UConn because they rank second in the country in offensive rebounding. They're aggressive on the glass. They play a tough schedule. They don't turn the ball over a lot, which is crucial in some of these games. College basketball is filled with momentum swings, so turnovers can really create that. I like UConn in this one, or Arkansas in this one, but if UConn is playing Vermont, I would definitely like UConn.
Yeah, Vermont, they're one of those popular upset teams. I feel like almost every year they win the America East almost every single year, and they've come up short pretty much every time. I don't think they've won a tournament game since the 90s. I think we're going to stick with Arkansas.
Maybe this is the time to break it, Jack.
Got to start somewhere.
Exactly, yeah. And now looking at, we did have a disagreement before, but we both have Texas Tech. Once again, I said it, I really like this Texas Tech team.
The only thing about Texas Tech, if they go down early, they only shoot 31% from 3 on the year, so they will struggle to bounce back if they go down early, but as long as they don't start down 8-10-0, something like that, they'll be fine.
True. I like Texas Tech.
You said it, right? Red Raiders.
Yeah, and looking at it, obviously the talks around Coach K. Going against, we have Michigan State, you guys have Davidson, but I think it's Duke on top.
Yep.
I think it would be an interesting matchup either way with the Coach K versus Tom Izzo or the Duke against Davidson because of the in-state, I guess, rivalry. But
That's relative.
Yeah,
Rivalry between those two.
But that game will be played in Greenville, so there's probably more Davidson people in that area. So that should be a fun one.
Yeah, and now we are going to move to the Eastern region to see these second-round matchups. All right, I'll say the elephant in the room. I mean, we have UNC winning. We said it before, they can beat anyone and they can lose to everyone. It is, but I think they're going to be hot. I think they're just going to play
I do too.
well.
I mean, like I said, Brady Manick is shooting the lights out. Amarndo Bacat can be as good of a big man as anybody. Caleb Love can shoot and be as good of a guard as anybody in the country. But another thing we were looking at with this pick too, with Baylor, if you look, the team that wins the tournament the next year, they've rarely made it past the Sweet 16 in the past decade. UNC was knocked out in the round of 32 a few years ago after they won Villanova, and these teams that win, they just don't play as well the next year.
It's definitely an interesting point, and yeah, I mean, trends don't lie, but I could see UNC winning this game. I think I have to stick with Baylor. You can't really count on Manick having another lights-out performance, and Baycott could get shut down. Baylor has some good size there in the paint.
As someone who's watched pretty much every North Carolina game this year, it's tough to say because they don't defend the three well, which is what Baylor is very good at on offense. And of course, the size could be a fun matchup to watch, but we gotta ride with the Bears.
It would take UNC's best game of the
That's
season.
the thing. UNC can beat anybody. They could lose to anybody. It's just any given day.
I also
with
think
them.
the hotness of this team is kind of fluky going into this tournament
That's
because
fair.
sure the win against Duke was impressive, but the win against Virginia, they caught them on a terrible, historically bad shooting night where they went 5 of 28 in the first half, and of course got ran by Virginia Tech. So we'll see.
Yeah, okay. Good
I would
points
like
all
for
in.
North Carolina to win.
Yeah, I can tell by the shirt, but going to St. Mary's, UCLA, I got to go with the experience. I mean,
Yeah, but as we already mentioned earlier, they have some big-time returning guards from the Final Four last year, and UCLA is just a more quality team than St. Mary's.
Yep, I agree.
They've just got everybody back, including Juzang, Campbell, Jaquez, all those guys.
And now looking at it, we're sticking with, I wouldn't even say the Cinderella team now after winning the ACC. I mean, Virginia Tech, they're a solid team, and they are red hot.
I mean, yeah, after you dog walk UNC and then beat Duke as well in the championship, This is when you want to get hot. That's giving them massive momentum. Then you go and play a Texas team, which whenever you beat Texas, that's always a great thing to feel. And so they're getting momentum from that too. And we think it'll carry right through with Purdue.
Yeah, this is an interesting matchup. Virginia Tech is red hot, but they kind of live and die by the 3. And Purdue is just a team that can take over in the paint. If Virginia Tech doesn't hit from behind the arc early, I could see Purdue running away with this one. It will be a fun matchup, though.
Yeah, Virginia Tech, I think, can compete down low with Justin Mutz and Keve Aluma, but I think Purdue's just going to be too strong with those guys up front with Zach Edey and Travion Williams coming off the bench.
And Jaden Ivey is just a great scorer and can really light it up from 3.
Yeah, that'll be an interesting matchup to watch out for, if it happens, hopefully. But looking at it, we have San Francisco, Kentucky. You guys got Murray State, Kentucky, but
Kentucky.
exactly.
Yeah,
Kentucky's
that's
too
all you
good.
gotta say.
Too good.
So that is it for the East, and now we go to the South side of the bracket to show our second round picks and moving on. And looking at it, Arizona Seton Hall. I think we're all pretty big on Arizona. They got a good team.
Yeah.
Yeah. Going to the disagreement now, Houston, Illinois, both have them here, but once again, I'm not sold on like AAC in the tournament. I'm not big on them, and I like Illinois. They had like kind of the big like hype ending to their regular season, and yeah, I like them. They struggled last year, but I think they're gonna want revenge this year going into it.
I just love Houston's defense. I think Houston's defense can really just shut down any opponent. They can score in several ways. This could be a close game, but I like Houston.
I think we discussed this pretty lengthy yesterday. This is a coin flip game for me, but I could see Houston winning this, so we rode with the Cougars here.
I like Illinois because if you try and stop their big men down below, they have perimeter shooters that can hurt you from there as well. They also had multiple players that just came out on first, second, third team AP All-American just about an hour ago. So I like Illinois in this game.
Yeah, moving on. We have disagreements going into the second round, but we both have Tennessee coming out of it.
Tennessee.
I know we are huge.
Yeah, we
Volunteers.
love Tennessee.
We do.
Tennessee, Kennedy Chandler, three-point shooting team.
I do like Tennessee's ability on the defensive side. They're one of the best teams when it comes to not fouling. A lot of players, when they drive into the paint, Tennessee does a good job of just not sending them to the free throw line. Very good all around.
Yeah, moving on. Villanova, like I said, I'm pretty biased with Villanova, but yeah, I don't see them having trouble.
They're not
against
losing
Loyola.
to Loyola Chicago. Too
Exactly.
athletic.
I think it'll be a close game.
It could be.
Okay. Finishing up the second round, let's reveal the Midwest now. And looking at it, no disagreements on the board, but we can just kind of breeze through this one. Kansas, they're the 1 seed. I don't see them losing to a Creighton team.
No.
Pretty simple. And the Iowa-Providence, for us, I think that could be a good game, but Providence, I know you guys obviously are not sold on Providence. I'm not sold on either, so got Iowa.
I
on that
will
one.
say for that game, South Dakota State, they could make it to the Sweet 16.
That's going to be a track meet if they end up meeting up in the second round. Both teams get up and down the floor, score a lot of points. So hopefully we get to see that matchup.
Yeah, and looking at the next one, Iowa State, Wisconsin for AppTV, and then LSU, Wisconsin for WSU, but we, as we said, huge on the Badgers.
You have Johnny Davis coming up, one of the nation's most improved players. This Wisconsin Badgers team is it's a fun team to watch. They actually are playing their fastest pace in the last 20 years. Still extremely slow basketball, but it's their fastest pace in the last 20 years.
And looking at the final one, Miami, Auburn, I think we all like the top seeds in this bracket this year. So,
yeah, it's a weird region, but I don't see Miami getting past Auburn.
I mean, I think they could give them some trouble maybe with the guard play. Auburn relies a lot on their front court, so an interesting dynamic there.
And now that we know our Sweet 16 picks, let's see who's making it to the Elite Eight. Out of the West first, we have... And once again, the elephant in the room, Vermont is there.
Yep.
They are there. But I don't think Vermont's going to take down Gonzaga.
Why not pick them one more time?
Honestly, if
Why
I
not
could, they
pick
would be
'em
the
one
they
more
would be
It's the
the
little train that keeps on chugging.
yeah
Vermont
they would be the
almost.
national champions if we could do it. But I just can't.
Yeah, we like Gonzaga too. I'm not even completely sold on Arkansas. They could totally lose to Vermont in the first round, but go Zags.
And looking at it, you guys actually have Texas Tech taking down Duke.
Yeah, I think Texas Tech is a pretty good matchup. The way that they've done pretty well this year, even losing their head coach, Chris Beard. I'm not completely sold on Duke making it far, even though they are a 2 seed. They could win this game, go to the Elite Eight, and I think their road ends there at best. But
I agree.
we got Texas Tech.
I think with Duke, I think a lot of it depends on how Banchero can play. Because, like, at the beginning of the season, everyone was like, #1 pick, best player in the nation. And then, like, to the end of the season, everyone was like, okay.
Yeah. Another thing with Duke this year is they live by the term, like, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. They will go back to the same play until you can stop it. But when they run into a team like Texas Tech, I think they will be able to shut them down. And I think Texas Tech is just better on both sides of the ball. I'm not sold on Duke either.
And what you mentioned about Paolo, too, we saw when he came in, he was supposed to be that next Duke superstar. And he started off his first few games hot, but then he kind of just never took that next step up. So it'll be interesting to see if he can do that in the tournament. And this is Coach K's last run, right? We saw how much pressure was put on that team just against UNC, and they crumbled. So it'll be interesting to see, too, as they get into these more high-pressure later rounds, if this team can rise to the occasion or if they just fall.
Yeah, it depends. You know, can the players step up for Coach K? But now let's move into the East to see the picks for that region. And once again, we, well, obviously UNC's up there, you know, but UCLA, the experience, you know, I think it's going to carry them for this one.
There's the better team. This is where North Carolina's inconsistencies would start to come into play.
Yeah, I like this. Different matchups, same result, though. I like the Bruins in this one.
Not much to add.
Yeah.
We like UCLA.
And then looking at it, we have Virginia Tech, Kentucky. You got Purdue, Kentucky. With the 2-11, I think Virginia Tech eventually, that three-point shooting is going to, I don't know if it'll carry on forever, but I got to go with Calipari and the Wildcats for this one.
Yeah, I love Shibwe. They got a really just good starting five. I like Kentucky in this one.
And what a lot of people forget is how far apart some of these tournament games are. Once you get past the second round, there's almost a 4-day rest. So, you know, how long can Virginia Tech maintain their shooting? We've got Purdue up there. Kentucky could compete inside and out, so we like the Wildcats.
Yep. As you mentioned, I mean, you have Washington Jr. too there, who's a really good player for Kentucky. And while they don't necessarily have the biggest superstars, I think they have a bunch of stars. They have 4 upperclassmen that are starting, which is a little different from a typical Calipari team, not a bunch of freshmen one-and-dones. So I'm interested to see what this Kentucky team does.
And with all the agreements, let's move on to the South region now to see those picks. Once again, not really seeing many disagreements here, but you know, we have different matchups in the first with Arizona, Illinois, and then Arizona, Houston, but I think it's just Arizona's a better team.
Yeah, we're going to set up the heavyweight Elite Eight bout between Arizona and Tennessee, who are 2 of the hottest teams in the country right now.
Yeah, exactly. And looking at the other one, I wanted to give Villanova, you know, as like the fan, but I just think Tennessee's the more well-built team, and I think Villanova's streaky. You know, they live and die by the 3-point.
It's true.
If they can't shoot well, it is hard to watch them sometimes, I will say. And now let's move on to the elite, or actually, let's go to our last region, which is the Midwest. Finally, a disagreement going into it. We see it. Kansas, I don't think we have to focus on that one too much, but looking at it, Wisconsin, Auburn. I mean, we've said it. We love Wisconsin in this tournament. I think they're a well-built team. I think they're good. They've had some big wins. They beat Purdue twice as well. They're just a well-built team. I'm not too sold on the Auburn Tigers this year.
See, I disagree. I like Auburn. If anything, I see Wisconsin is shaky. Auburn, you know, has one of the best players in the country. They have battled through some adversity. They can score in several ways, but Jabari Smith can just take over a game. You know, he hits on 44% from inside the paint and shoots 43% from behind the arc. He's 18 years old. I mean, the dude is explosive. He can take over a game.
And Wisconsin's a little banged up right now. Johnny Davis, they rely on him too much offensively. So I'm not really huge on either of these teams, but the way the bracket sets up, they should be able to make a Sweet 16 or Elite Eight run.
And as I mentioned earlier, Wisconsin plays a very slow pace of basketball. So if Davis or some of these studs for Auburn get cold early by them not being able to pick it up and try and get going again, I think could affect them. And Wisconsin slated that their first few rounds are going to be in Milwaukee, so not much travel for them either, which is crucial.
It's true.
Yeah, and now let's reveal who our final 4 teams are. And looking at it, you know, we have the disagreement and the East. Duke and Zaga. Jeff doesn't like that apparently. I don't know. I did not glance at his reaction there. I don't know. You got anything to say about that?
I think I'm huge on the KenPom, and your Final Four. KenPom highlights a lot of important things. In the top 10, you guys have two teams in the top 10 in KenPom. So the other ones could be some Cinderella. Wisconsin, 34th. I mean, Big Ten hasn't won a championship in over 20 years. Let alone, I don't know if how I feel about Wisconsin.
But when do we ever see 3 1 seeds in the Final Four with your guys'
It's true,
teams?
but we also got the 4 seed in UCLA, and there could be a little underseeded. But also, Gonzaga has the former assistant head coach in Tommy Lloyd at Arizona, so just a lot of talent around there. I'm not sold on Kansas. I don't love Kansas, but I don't love that entire region.
Yeah, just looking at the history here, it looks like the last time there was no ones in the Final Four was 2011.
Hey, not that long ago.
Which was a chaotic tournament. I got another stat later for the championship game, but taking a look at Duke, I mentioned it earlier. I mean, how long can they keep it going? I don't think they can. I know they've already beaten Gonzaga earlier this year. It's hard to beat the same team twice, especially as far apart as the matchups were. I don't mind the Tennessee pick, but we just like Arizona so much. They pass the ball so well. I believe they're the top assist team in the nation. They've got a ton of size. So I think they'll be there. And then the Wisconsin, Kansas. I mean, like I said, we're not huge on Wisconsin either.
I mean, with the Tennessee pick though, Tennessee's guard play is just like phenomenal. I think like Tennessee, I think they should be a 2 seed. I think Villanova should be a 3 seed. They should be the 2 seed there. I think, I could easily see that. Not easily, but like not cruising, I guess. But winning that game, and I think they deserve it. They're one of the better teams.
I like Tennessee, but I just don't like their path. The fact that they have to go through Arizona, granted Arizona is one of their best players with a hurt ankle right now, but they're one of the fastest and biggest teams in all of college basketball history, including this year. They have big men that run in transition every play, just allowing so many open and easy buckets. Tommy Lloyd, again, former Gonzaga assistant, he utilizes some of the same strategies. They run a high-low action with their big men in the paint. They do a lot of fake handoff to do another handoff to set up a screen. If you go and watch clips of them, it works 85% of the time. I mean, Arizona is just so fast. 66% of their buckets come from assists, number 1 assist rate in the country. They just have so much depth. I don't see them losing to Tennessee.
And you talk about guard play, too. Ben Mathurin is probably maybe the best guard in the country for Arizona. They've also got Dalen Terry, who stepped up big time in the Pac-12 championship game. And you mentioned Carr Krisa, who is, he's hurt, but he should be available for the NCAA tournament. So that's the final piece for Arizona for us.
Yeah, I just love like the guard play. Arizona is one of the most like efficient teams in the nation, and I think like if we get that matchup, which I hope we do, I think that'll definitely be one of the best.
And going back to this Duke team real quick, I feel like a lot of people are falling under the same syndrome, as you will, as what happened to the Kansas City Chiefs in the NFL. They struggled a little bit. A bunch of people jumped off the bandwagon, said they're falling apart. Playoffs come around. Yeah, they didn't make the Super Bowl, but we saw Patrick Mahomes and them all come back. I think Duke's an easy team to dog on because what happened in UNC in the ACC championship, and I think a lot of people are kind of falling under that spell.
To be fair, the Kansas City hate was early in the season, and they got hot as the season went on.
Right.
The reverse for the Blue Devils, but
we'll
see.
Not exactly comparable because Duke doesn't have that one guy. I don't think that they can just have take over a game with the way Paolo Banchero's playing. But like I've mentioned.
I mean, that's fair. I think eventually, once you get into March, you just get sometimes teams carry that emotion and just drive. And I think if the players finally respect that and really look at that, because I feel like they are, and they're playing almost too emotional. But once they play that and play their smart basketball, they were getting at the regular, beginning of the regular season, which I think they can, knowing Coach K and his capabilities, obviously. I don't see much stopping them. I don't think they're gonna obviously.
Chet Holmgren, you don't see Chet Holmgren stopping
I
them?
know.
Best
I
defender in the
175
nation.
pounds of him.
Best defender in the nation. Has the longest wingspan. I will say when he's on the bench, because that's my biggest takeaway looking at Gonzaga. When Holmgren is on the bench, teams obviously take notice to it and they attack the rim like there's no tomorrow when he is on the bench. So if Duke can do that and go on a big run when he's not in the game, we'll see.
I think a lot of it will fall on Banchero though. Can he play to what we like saw him playing on early on.
That's what we see like in a lot of sports. The superstars that's going to take you through the postseason, get you to that championship, and it'll be interesting to see if Banchero can step up. And I know NBA teams are looking out for that too.
Exactly. Moving on now, who is going to make it to the national championship? Let's see. And I mean, we love Tennessee. We said it before. We will, and but yeah,
I'm
Duke
glad
and Michigan
Wisconsin's not in there.
Yeah.
I'll just say that. At least it's not Wisconsin.
You got that right.
Yeah, it could definitely happen. In a couple of my brackets, I wanted to pick Kentucky to go to the national championship. I just don't know if they can get past, some of those teams like UCLA, Baylor, Gonzaga if they make it. But it's an interesting matchup. I like though our Gonzaga Arizona. It is it's top heavy. It's chalk. Yeah, but it's very plausible. I mean, Gonzaga, always great. Granted, they haven't met those national championship hype yet, but Arizona, former assistant, leading the way there now. It just makes sense.
I'm just at the point with Gonzaga too where I'll believe it when I see it. We see this every single year. Number 1 overall seed going in, Mark Few, a good recruiter obviously, but until they actually win the championship, I'm just at the point where I can't put them in a final or win it. And this may be the year, but it's just I've seen it so many times now.
I mean, people used to say that about Villanova.
That is true. They did.
And then they did it. And I was going to say, just because that's not a great reason, just because they haven't done it yet doesn't mean they'll do it. But I hear you.
I know that probably put a sour taste in your mouth.
Whatever.
Well, they won it before 2016, but it took a while.
Lucky shot.
That wasn't a lucky shot. That was a great play.
Talking about Gonzaga, let's not get ahead of ourselves. We may have them losing in the championship game. Maybe stick around. But Arizona, we just think these two teams are the two best. We saw it last year with Gonzaga and Baylor. I don't think it's as big of a gap between 2 and 3 as it was a year ago. But Arizona's just playing so well right now. They play great team basketball, but they also have the individuals to get the job done. And like you said, Gonzaga's kind of got that tournament pedigree at this point where they can, make it far even if they don't win the big one. We've mentioned Chet Holmgren. Drew Timme is still there.
Has been struggling, but
that's
a great all-around team.
He's got to be better, and the guards have to play a little bit better as well for Gonzaga.
I mean, talking about Timme too, in that in the St. Mary's matchup at the end of the regular season, I mean, that was a hard. Like he had one of his worst games if I could watch him play. But one thing I like to point out our matchup, we talked about it too. The worst thing about this is seeing the double SEC in the final.
They already claim football, then they'll claim basketball, and they're the best baseball conference probably too.
Yeah.
And the SEC, those people like to talk.
Exactly.
That was the stat I had next. Was the last time 2 conference opponents met up was 1988 in the national championship.
Hey,
just like Gonzaga, it's got to happen.
2022 is a great year for it to happen.
When Oklahoma and Kansas played each other from the Big 8. That's how long ago it was.
Hey, 2022 is a great year for it to happen. But now for the big reveal, finally, who we will be crowning as our champions. Jeff kind of alluded to it, but let's see. We go with Kentucky. We like them. They're a good team, and I think Calipari. We said he's due.
It's been 2012 since he won his last championship, and as I mentioned earlier, the thing with him is it's not a bunch of one and dones like you see on Duke. They have 4 upperclassmen starting, which is huge in the tournament. I mean, you see a lot of the times the winners aren't necessarily the big one and done teams. It is the people with some experience, and I just think Kentucky's deep, and I like this team a lot this year.
Yeah, and talking about the experience too, I mean, look in the past, a lot of the teams, they usually have that really good veteran group, and like Kentucky usually doesn't have that, and this is the year, and I think it makes a lot of sense for them.
Yeah, you mentioned it. Kentucky's very deep. They also have the star power too, with Sheboy averaging 17 and 15, which is unheard of in college basketball. But I don't hate that championship pick out of you guys, which you're probably thinking, shut up. But but Kentucky's very solid. We just liked Arizona a lot more. Beating a dead horse at this point, but they work so well together. They've got such a fluid offensive system.
I love that you say that. They literally run the flow offense, and it just opens up so many good things for them. I mean, they don't if you watch them, they never reset their offense. They'll never take it back out and reset. They always just make decisions based on what the defense is giving them, and it just works so well for them. Like I said, they're statistically one of the fastest and biggest teams ever. They get out and run, but they do it with purpose. They've only lost 3 games this year, and I think it speaks to that. It's hard to pick against Arizona, although I will say this year, I don't think there is any one dominant team. I could definitely see a Tennessee, Kentucky.
We can just do this
championship.
whole entire thing,
Yeah.
and for all we know, there's going to be a 4 and a 5 seed in the championship
exactly.
with one of them winning.
Yeah, you can't predict it.
I mean, Arizona, too, you said it, they play just smart basketball. They really do. And you don't, that's the thing I noticed with like watching college versus NBA. College sometimes they just play, I think, a lot with like their heart in like a way you could say. And so they'll just make plays based on emotions that they're feeling like, and it just doesn't always work out. But Arizona really just plays efficient basketball, and that's gonna be really hard to beat on the stretch if they make a long run.
It wears defenses down too.
Exactly.
And the coaching, I think, is huge too. Watching Calipari with all that experience, obviously, as we mentioned with Lloyd, first year, so that's something to look at too.
I mean, Arizona, man, they're just so big up front. I remember watching the Pac-12 championship this past week with Omar Ballo coming off the bench. He's so funny to watch. He's just a maniac. And then Christian Coloco, who's the most improved player in the Pac-12. They can compete with anyone in size. They're big, they're fast, and then they just got the most specimens, I guess, for a college basketball team. They've got, 6 or 7 guys averaging 20 minutes a game, so they got some depth as well too.
And give credit to Kentucky. I want to point out something with them is they have the ability to stay in games even when they are shooting god awful. I mean, in that Arkansas loss when they barely lost on a road game, they were like 1 of 11 from 3, but it was a 2-point game because Sheboy is just so dominant, averaging a double-double. They have ways to score even when they're not, on their A game.
Yeah, and all 5 starters are in double figures too. So like as we've mentioned, if one star's struggling, other guys are there to back him up.
Yeah, exactly. And also, going off like your like championship battle, Gonzaga, Arizona, I will say, if I saw, I would go with Arizona too. I think, I don't know why, we just really love Tennessee for some reason, but I can definitely get the Arizona.
I don't think it's for some reason. I think
Yeah.
it's because they're playing good
Well,
basketball.
no, not for some, like I'm saying for some reason because we like Tennessee over Arizona.
Right.
It's like, yeah,
Anything can happen.
they can. It's March.
The
Exactly.
one's madness, and
Yeah.
it's March.
The one thing interesting though about those two teams, Arizona, they're not a great tournament team in recent years,
true.
and Tennessee the same way. I think the furthest they've gotten is the Sweet 16 in 2019.
And they got knocked out first round last year.
Exactly, to Oregon State, who has 3 wins this year, which doesn't really matter. But Tennessee, I could see them making it far. I could see them winning this championship.
Exactly, like you said. I mean, this is the year. I mean, I have no idea. Gonzaga's probably the heavy favorite, obviously going into it, but anything can really happen.
Right, there's probably about a pool of 12 or so teams that could probably win this championship.
Yeah,
Exactly.
I agree.
And that's kind of why I think it could be probably one of the better March Madnesses we've seen. Obviously, otherwise than the Villanova beating UNC.
Yeah, I mean this tournament, this bracket is going to be one of the hardest to predict. I think in any year. I think it's just going to get harder and harder because every team, there's no great teams, and every team is just good. I think that's a result of the transfer portal. All these players, jumping up from mid majors to these higher level schools makes for better competition. So. I'm ready to watch the heck out of these games.
Me too.
And it's also just great to have because just 2 years ago we didn't have March Madness. We didn't have a tournament.
Exactly.
And never take it for granted again after that.
Yeah.
And we'll have a real tournament this year with fans in the stands. No bubble this year, so we're finally going to get the full experience.
That's a good point too, because every team in every sport that won in the bubble, they say it's not a real championship. So now I think it's to really show like who can like thrive on the road and win. But well, thank you guys for joining us for a special episode. And also big thanks to the guys over at WASU and AWM for joining the A Game. Also make sure to watch next week's A Game episode to stay up to date on the competition. May the competition begin. I truly hope we win. But that's it.
Good luck, not too. Good luck.
Hi everyone, I'm Dave Blanks from University Communications here in the Beaver College of Health Sciences. It's the 10-year anniversary of the Beaver College and we're going to interview some nursing students. Come along with me. Guess how old the Beaver College of Health Sciences is?
I don't know.
No idea?
Nope.
Care to wager a guess?
5 years.
No, you're almost there. We'll keep going around until we find somebody maybe who knows. So, how do you like the Beaver College of Health Sciences thus far?
I love it. It's been a really fun time making relationships with all my classmates, and the faculty are very great. They're very caring, and it's not something I expected. I didn't expect them to care as much about me as they do, and so it's been really nice in this hard time going through nursing school.
Why did you want to be a nurse?
Well, when I was little, I had cancer. So just seeing like how the nurses helped my mom and like how she still really like thinks about the nurses and how much they did for her, I wanted to do that for other people.
What would this be called? This thing, like if you were going to look on Amazon, it must have a name, right?
It's called Seymour Butts.
No, it is not.
Yeah.
It totally is Seymour. So what do you like about the Beaver College of Health Sciences? Can you share with me something that you enjoy about it?
Yeah, I mean, what do you not like about it? It's honestly beautiful. We have everything available to us. Like as nursing students, I feel like I have like the most opportunities I would ever need. Just having like labs like this to kind of simulate like a real patient experience, that's definitely a highlight for me. It's just been a blessing to be able to go here.
Do you feel like you're doing good?
Of course.
I love your confidence. Is he going to be all right? Of course.
He'll be just fine.
He's good. Did you know how old the Beaver College of Health Sciences is? Can you guess?
10 years?
Oh my gosh, you got it. Yes, congratulations.
Thank you.
Wow. We have this arm for you. I brought nothing for you, but yeah, how about a hand? Yeah, give her a hand. So I understand that you received a scholarship, is that correct?
Yes, I am part of the Beaver Scholars here, and with that, hopefully I am able to get into the nursing program.
What made you want to be a nurse?
Well, it all started with just experiences back at home with having not having accessible health care for my parents and the majority of the people who live in my town. I always saw the struggle there of people trying to find ways of getting health care and being able to afford it as well.
It seems like the scholarship has made a big impact in your life.
Oh, of course, yes. It's helped my family. Part of my graduating class, maybe 20, 30 students made it out to college. So that's something big and like something I'm proud of.
Did y'all know that the Beaver College of Health Sciences is having an anniversary, like right now?
Oh, it's 10 years, right?
How many? Yeah,
10.
10. She got it.
Amazing.
Yeah. Good job. You knew. Yeah, 10 years. Thank you for your support of the Beaver College of Health Sciences and its students. Happy 10th anniversary to the Beaver College. Your support of these students is clearly having an impact on their lives now and will for years to come. Thanks so much and have a great one.
What brings us to mountains? Is it the possibilities that await us at the top? Are we looking forward to how the challenge will mold us, transform us? Maybe the mountain is inside all of us. After all, we are mountaineers. Appalachian State University.
It's time for Sports Wrap on 90.5 WASU FM.
Unpredictable NC State can be on. That is true. I feel like they do have one of these games in this part of the season every year. I'm not going to get into a big discussion about expanding it. I definitely think it should be maybe capped at 8 teams, maybe 6.
Because 228 yards on the ground, that's compared to a total of 55 for Coastal Carolina. I count one team of the 6 games that they have played this year that was in the playoffs last year.